Another long anticipated farm system breakdown here on the call up. We've got the Boston Red Sox top prospects here. Of course, you've got Jack McMullen and myself, Aram Layton. We've been wanting to do the Red Sox system for a little bit, but of course, Sox system takes a little bit of time because it's loaded, and I'm glad we waited because there's a couple names that have been emerging quite quickly in this system that we may not have even talked about much had we not waited until the start of the season.
Like the kid that was the power forward at Gonzaga for a little bit and was a Memphis Grizzly, right? Brandon Clarke.
Yeah, Brandon Clarke.
Yeah, he was running with Sabonis at one point. I think it was like Nemhard running the pick and roll with Sabonis and Brandon Clarke, and now he's throwing fuel in the Red Sox organization. Just fascinating stuff.
What's crazy is this actually may end up becoming the more well-known Brandon Clarke because his stuff looks insane. We're going to get to him where he's actually already cracked the top 10, but this has been regarded as, one of the best systems. Some say the best system in Major League Baseball. I think you can't deny that it's one of the best, not only because of the big three at the top, which, soon we'll have Kristian Campbell graduating from, but it still doesn't even really matter because you get the number one prospect in baseball and one of the best shortstop prospects in baseball. But what I think is very tangible here is you have, and it's kind of remnants of both. Chaim Bloom, you could say what you want about him as a GM and sometimes making the bigger moves and how that went, but he can draft, he can identify, he can scout, and that was something that we saw, and he left that farm system in great shape. But then you look at the new front office here with Breslow and Andrew Bailey and just the pitching infrastructure that they have, and you see that now starting to really take shape. So it's like remnants of some of the great drafting before, and then now you're seeing some of these pitchers that they're identifying and maximizing, and guys that maybe were already in the system that are getting a new set of eyes on them to maximize that arsenal. And we just talked about it with Robbie Snelling, right? About how guys can get told different things in different orgs with different minds telling them what they think is the best version of their arsenal. I trust this Red Sox brass to get arsenals right with the people that they have there. And you can see it across the farm system with some of the deeper arms that they're making a leap here with either adjustments to the arsenal or just better stuff.
Yeah, so I think the Red Sox, and I actually, bias aside, I think the Marlins are there too. The Red Sox and the Marlins are the best iteration of the drive lineification of pitching development and acquisition at this point. And what I mean by that is Andrew Bailey obviously has cut his teeth as a pitching coach through the drive line ideas, right? Kyle Bodie is involved in the Red Sox organization. Craig Breslow has leaned into that. Bill Hazel, the director of pitching with the Marlins, cut his teeth through the drive line approach. Daniel Moskis, the big league pitching coach, cut his teeth through the drive line approach. What we saw a few years ago in Cincinnati was the first iteration of the drive lineification of pitching acquisition and pitching development, and it did not go well. No. But what we have seen now is you have a lot of smart pitching minds that get together. They ID buckets of advanced metrics that they love in prep pitchers, whether that be college or high school arms, and they have data points there. So they acquire those players via the draft, and then they optimize their arsenal. They have them lean into their strengths. They mitigate the weaknesses. I think we're seeing the best version of the modern approach to pitching in the Red Sox organization and the Marlins organization.
That's a great point, and that's something I probably want to talk about in another podcast because we could go on about it for like 10 minutes, but one quick follow-up is that I think that the problem in Cincinnati was you had maybe guys that were already there that didn't fit that archetype of pitcher.
Square peg and round hole.
Exactly. And you're trying to apply what you like to do because, I think there was clearly some I think bashing of heads there a little bit where there was some disagreements and stuff like that. And then I think it was like my way prevails. And that's why it kind of ended the way that it did. But I think trying to do it with players that maybe don't fit that bill, you got to still be a little bit more malleable and say, okay, well, he's not going to fit this exact type of program. We need to adjust, even though it's not, our cup of tea. And I think that's what we're seeing even in the Red Sox system too. Like there's a lot of different types of arms. Brandon Clarke is very different from Hunter Dobbins, who looks really good as well. So I think that's the development that we're seeing here too.
Yeah. Let's
get into the names to watch here. And what's fun about the names to watch is you kind of get a little bit of everything. Jack, walk us through it. Of course, I don't know how much you know about like some obviously the DSL and complex guys, but Did you do a little dive into Nelly Taylor? Because he's pretty interesting.
A little bit. I thought it was fascinating that he had some offers to play college hoops.
Yeah.
But Nelly Taylor, a very talented athlete who was one of those like overslot 11th round guys. When the signing bonus rules go away after round 10, there are a lot of teams that capitalize in rounds 11 and 12. And, we saw that a little bit with Nelly Taylor when the Red Sox took him.
I like him, man. This was a player that I didn't really have much on before we did this dive and got into it. And there's just so many players out there that, are, especially the athletes that, you look at the surface level numbers, you're like 713 OPS, you kind of comb over. But then you realize, wait, well, he's a really good athlete. And what does the underlying data look like? And then you look at the fact that he had a hard hit rate of 40% and 90th percentile of 105.5. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, and he can actually play a good center field. Like, wait, he just needs one little thing to click here offensively. And all of a sudden you can at least talk yourself into, fourth outfielder type, but I think you can even dream on like a second division regular up the middle. And now you look at what he's doing this year. Yes, there's still in zone miss, but he's hammering fastballs. The chase is down even further and he's hitting the ball even harder. So like, if he's a guy that even if the hit tool is fringy, if he has good plate discipline, he hits the ball hard and he's a left-handed hitter, like he could be a bulk platoon, fourth outfielder type, or could be a second division regular if he continues progressing. He's going to need to keep cutting down on the whiff, but I really like what I'm seeing. And I think he's a guy that might be a station to station developer, but this is also maybe an intriguing complementary trade chip. If I were a team, I would love to have him coming into a larger package of a deal because you're betting on an athlete upside, but at least the floor is still relatively high because the defense is good in center field and he can run.
It feels like a low risk ad if you did go about acquiring a guy like Nelly Taylor in a deal, and we'll see if he breaks through. But obviously, it's incredibly hard to break through with the Boston Red Sox. So, yeah, he totally seems like one of those guys that, it would just be, hey, the third piece in this trade return is Nelly Taylor, and that's somebody that fan base should be excited about.
100%.
Dorian Soto is the next one. I know nothing about him, but he signed for seven figures. Yeah, 7 figures. I don't know. It's 9:57 a.m. For some reason, my brain isn't working yet. I need 3 more minutes. But signed for 7 figures, $1.4 million in the 2025 IFA class.
Yeah, I obviously limited. I could only look at some video, not much data, but from what I was able to see, it definitely is an intriguing profile where you've got a 6'3", 185-pound switch hitting shortstop with long levers that he kind of controls well. It's hard to know how well he controls because I didn't get enough like live AB looks, but there's definitely some whip and bat speed. And, I think with what the Red Sox have been able to do to get more bat speed out of guys, I think you're just looking at a dude here that at the very least you can dream on a very intriguing blend of power and hit. I don't know what the defense at shortstop is going to look like yet or anything like that, but I was able to see just from the path alone that this guy can backspin balls to all fields. So I think he's just an intriguing name to watch. One, because he's the crown jewel of their 2025 class, but also you can definitely see the offensive upside even just from a BP round.
Yep. Mikey Romero, somebody with a little bit more intrigue here, first round pick in 2022. Mikey Romero fell out of favor of a lot of prospect people pretty much right away because he was hurt for a while. He wasn't good when he was on the field, but 2024, sneaky, a fine year for him. Yeah. And now he's in AA Portland.
Yeah, it was funny because like in 24, you see the numbers he's putting up and it's like first rounder, pretty good numbers. Why is no one talking about this guy? And part of it is because just there were too many guys to talk about in the farm system last year, especially just stealing headlines left and right. And there's more talked about than just about any prospect in minor league baseball with the trio that they had at the top. But Romero has turned himself into, I think, an intriguing piece here. He's definitely got to cut down on the chase. And it was like a 34% chase rate last year, but he was 20 years old. And we kind of talk about baseball age. As you mentioned, he was hurt. So missed out on a lot of reps. Like he really was, I think, 19 years old in baseball age. And they've still pushed him with some relative aggressiveness. Like he got to AA at the end of last year. That's where he hit a bit of a wall, but he was really good in high A. I think defensively, it's probably second base, but this is a dude that has above average. I think you can really look at plus power here potentially. And if it's plus power at second base, he lifts the ball consistently to the pull side. It's just a matter of will he hit enough to get to it, and he's continuing to show progress in that regard. I think he can kind of be this power hitting second base type from the left side. So this is another guy that I do think ultimately could be a trade chip for them, but he's already in double. He's 21 years old. He's succeeding in double out of the gate this year.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really encouraging given where he was at a year and a half ago.
Let's also make it clear, like anybody outside of the top 5 is a trade chip for the Boston Red Sox as it stands at this very moment, because they're trying to win a division, and there is a world where they do win a division this year. So it's like, yeah, I'm absolutely with you. This guy, it seems like there's no space for him because they just signed a second baseman to an 8-year contract. So yeah, he seems like kind of a slam dunk trade option.
And when I highlight a quote unquote trade chip, because I'm glad you brought that up, it's more like, has this guy enhanced his image enough to where teams outside of the organization would have interest in him, you know? And I think he's definitely been a guy that's elevated himself enough to that degree where you can put him in that conversation as well.
Makes perfect sense. Another guy I know absolutely nothing about, Harold Rivas, was a $950,000 IFA signing this offseason.
From what I've heard, this is a player that some are as excited about as Soto, which is interesting because he got about $500,000 less, but crazy athlete. So I think when you look at Soto, the floor is a little bit higher because of the bat, and this is very relative because the floor is still very, very low when we're talking about IFA prospects. But this is a player that I think the ceiling is potentially really high because he's ahead of his years defensively in the outfield and looks like he could play a really good center field if he continues developing the way that you think. He's 6'2", 170 as well, so you can dream on a little bit of power. And I mean, there was some decent, I think, things to look at swing-wise that say, okay, you can dream on a little bit more. I think if he has even just a pretty good offensive season with his athleticism, upside, and I think just defensive ability in center field, Rivas could end up becoming a guy that I think flies up the prospect rankings pretty quickly.
Yeah. All right. Next guy here is Jettison. What do you think?
Jhostynxon?
I mean, Jhostynxon has an X in his name. I would think like that kind of created an S sound. Let's go Jettison Paez. Does that work?
Works for me.
I don't know. Let's do it. Jettison Paez, high A guy. He's in Greenville right now. It's a big bending curveball, and that's his best pitch, but the fastball is not awesome at the moment. It seems like he can kind of pitch ability his way to the upper minors, and we'll see if he can, take that final step to the big leagues.
Yeah, he definitely has taken a step forward this year. This is another guy where I think you look at what the Red Sox have been able to do, and I think he's benefited from it. He just hit the 7-day IL, though I hope it's nothing serious. He left his last start, I think, after like an inning and 2/3. But he saw his velocity tick up this year, where last year it was 91, 92. I think a lot more 91s. But he kind of kitchen sinked it, and the command is outrageous. Like, he has a changeup, curveball, sinker, slider, cutter, four-seamer, and pretty much every single pitch except for the four-seamer had a strike rate of 70%. He had an overall strike rate of 71% last year. Wow. And there's some decent characteristics to the fastball, so at least it'll play a little bit better. But now that he's at 93 and you see the just kitchen sink approach here, it's like, okay, that guy might be able to just, I think, massage his way through and be a 5-starter. I mean, you're talking about like 21% usage on the curveball, 21% usage on the changeup, 20% usage on the four-seamer, 19 on the slider, 10 on the sinker, and 9 on the cutter. Like, he could just mix and match enough to be successful. So it's just going to be a matter of, can he miss enough bats at the higher levels, and we'll have to wait and see. But at 21 years old and already an uptick, I think this could be a back-end arm.
Guy that seems destined for a setup role for the Boston Red Sox is Luis Guerrero, who's already in the big leagues. Guerrero is a guy that can run it up to 100 miles an hour. He can go 2 innings at a time, maybe even 2 1/3, 2 2/3. He screams multi-inning reliever for a very long time for the Red Sox.
Yeah, it's just finding more consistency with his command, and that's going to be the difference between him being a 6th inning guy and him being an 8th inning guy. The stuff is good enough to, if you want to put him in a position where, hey, we need to strike out a couple guys because the bases are loaded, he might walk in the run, he might strike out the side. So that's what they're, I think, trying to get to a point here where he can fill up the zone a little bit more. because now he's doing it enough to mitigate the walks, but I don't think he's executing enough to get the strikeouts that he could potentially get. Because when he is locating with that upper 90s fastball and then the pair of sliders, I mean, it's really difficult to avoid striking out there. So I think that's something that he's still trying to find, but he's just such a high probability, just solid big league bullpen arm that he still cuts the names to watch for us, and still just 24 years old too. So he's got plenty of time to continue to settle in.
And if you throw 100, you're going to be a name to watch. Like, as long as you're not just spraying it, landing it for a strike 40% of the time, you're going to be a name to watch. He's not
doing that. He's one step away from being more of that seventh inning guy.
Exactly. Jhostynxon Garcia is Jhostynxon's brother. He was really good in 2023 at the complex. In 24, he was off to a nice start with Salem, and then he tore his ACL. So Jhostynxon Garcia, we haven't seen much of him to this point, but an exciting catching prospect that's very young in his baseball life.
Yeah, it sucks because he had like 1,000 OPS in 14 games before he went down. And I think there was a lot of momentum he was building there and a lot of things to be excited about because defensively the tools are there. I mean, he's got a great arm. I think there's a good chance to be a solid just backstop in general. But I think the challenge now is can he build on, what he was starting to do offensively last year before going down with that ACL. Hopefully he can, but there's been some stretches of a little bit too much whiff. I think some higher chase, but this is a guy that could be an interesting backstop prospect and at least has a decent chance to be a backup. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see when he comes back.
Yordan Monegro has one of the best sliders that I've seen in the minor leagues. It's a very good pitch. The problem is the other pitches in his arsenal fall pretty far behind him, but he could be a sinker slider guy, multi-innings out of the bullpen. Yordan Monegro is a guy that I think had some legit prospect intrigue, and then that kind of fell by the wayside, but he's still big league caliber at some point down the line.
The results have been really good for a guy, I think, that doesn't have as much prospect intrigue as you'd expect. But there is a lot of a reliance on spin, as you mentioned, between the slider and the curveball. I mean, that's 58% usage. And he's definitely a guy that's trying to mask that fastball where he's got the four-seamer and the sinker, but both are kind of close to the same data points. Like they're both kind of flirting with that dead zone. So that's why he only throws them a combined 28% of the time. That's the concern. There's so much breaking ball reliance there that I think ultimately he probably is a reliever, but I think he could be a pretty darn good one. And it's going to help the fastballs as well. I still think this is a big league arm.
Who is Conrad Kaysen? Two-way guy that they paid a lot of money for in the 8th round?
Yeah, I am just so fascinated and eager to see his professional debut because the Red Sox giving $1.25 million second round money for an 8th round pick who's a two-way guy that scouts are split on as to where they like him better, whether it's as a right-hander or as a shortstop. I just want to see what they do and what the plan is. But, I think, and it's so funny that now these two-way guys, like you just go to Mississippi State. I always think that's really funny. Oklahoma State or Mississippi State. But the interesting thing is you have a crazy athlete with plenty of projection, who's bumped to the mid-90s on the mound. Like the velo really ticked up in his senior year. And then the bat was really good, and the glove is potentially looking solid at shortstop. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to let him do both. I think it's more of a decision of like which one are they going to have him do. I'd imagine they may lean towards the pitching side because he's so athletic and already has the arm talent. But it's just let's wait and see.
About it. And then last but not least, Miguel Bleis, former top 100 prospect. Why do you hate him now? He's been a very difficult prospect for me to assess in general. He's off to a pretty good start this year, so that's encouraging. But every time I've seen him in person, I come away a little bit disappointed. The operation is, I think, very difficult to consistently catch up to velocity. The path is not really conducive to that, and he's often cheating for velocity, and that's hurt him. Then he's also just struggled to stay healthy. So I think that's been a challenge for him as well. I don't really think he's progressed the way that a lot of people who are most bullish on him were hoping. But he is still just 21 years old. He'll be 21 for the entirety of the season, and he does have the potential to be plus power. I think it's probably more likely now at this point that it'll be above average power that you can dream on. And
you hope that he could stick up the middle, but the more I've watched, I think it's a guy that probably is moving around all three. I think you can plug in center, but I don't think it's like this tried and true center fielder. So those things have kind of hurt him a lot. I think that you looked at the frame 6'3", 170, and like, okay, well, he's going to grow into more strength, and he just really hasn't as much. And I don't love the way he kind of controls his ABs or doesn't, I would say at points. And it just seems like he has the makings to be a little bit of a frustrating player. But the talent is 100% there. And I'll never fully count out a guy that's as talented as Blyce is.
So Blyce is one of those guys that for me fits the bucket of he's awesome, just trust me. Like sometimes I call those guys a he's awesome, just trust me guy.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Alcantara with the Cubs, right? He's awesome, just trust me. It's like, okay, at some point I need to see the awesome myself. There are a couple other guys like that. But that's kind of like the gold standard of he's awesome, just trust me. Mm-hmm. And Blyce, that was kind of the deal too. It's like, oh, wait till you see this kid. Wait till you see this kid. When you watch him, it's like, no, he's awesome. Just trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like if you just watch the highlights, like, yeah, that looks really good and exciting, but you watch every AB and it seems like it can be a little bit frustrating to get to those highlights. Really sells out for the poll too. And it seems like some of those ABs are a little bit just immature, I guess, at points. And I don't know if it's just because that's the only way that he can get to that power or if he's just continuing to sell out for that. So it'll be interesting to see how he can continue to develop, if he can hopefully stay healthy this whole year.
Yep.
We're going to get to the top 15, which starts with Juan Valera in a moment. Before that, our first break. All right. This is a really interesting prospect because I don't know why he got such an aggressive assignment. Juan Valera, he's not even 19 yet. And the Red Sox assigned him to high A. He throws absolute fuel. But like, he's still kind of optimizing his pitch shapes. He's still learning how to throw all three pitches. And frankly, he's still just getting more comfortable filling up the zone. And the results have been mixed. In high A, I would say it's impressive that he is just battling out there. I think if you looked at the numbers on the surface, I wouldn't call that mixed, but most of the ERA is inflated by one bad outing. 7 ERA, 6.9, 7 ERA. But this is a dude that is averaging 97.2 on the fastball. And by the way, he's like 6'2", 190, just a live arm. The arm speed is ridiculous. His slider is still, I think, could be a little bit more effective shape-wise, but it's like 89 miles per hour, and when he's on it, it's got some decent bite to it. And then the changeup's a work in progress at like 92. So it's tough because I still think the shapes aren't really optimized. I think some of that's because he's got so much arm speed. He's just ripping the ball. But I was just kind of surprised that he got assigned to high A after, I think, making 7 low A appearances last year after dominating his way through the complex league. Yeah. It just seemed a little aggressive for, I don't know, a guy that is not even 19 years old yet, but you can see the arm talent, no doubt.
And what you can appreciate is that he's not phased by the competition. The competition is just a little bit better than him at this point right now. But in 20 2/3 innings, he's only walked 7 in high A. And that's a big number for me with a guy that young because he could be a little scared, right? We talk about guys that are making their major league debut. Are they going to nibble? That's going to result in some elevated walk numbers. Juan Valera, he walked 3 in his first start in high A this year. Since then, 2, 1, 0, 1. Those are the walk totals over his last 4 starts. So I appreciate that. He's not afraid to be within the strike zone. Is he getting beaten sometimes? Yeah. And he got beaten pretty bad on April. I've got this in front of me here. Let's see. April 19th, right? Yeah. By Winston-Salem. It was 4 2/3, 9 hits. So yeah, okay, he lost that battle, but at least he gave himself a shot by being in the strike zone. That's what you can appreciate from a guy like this.
No doubt. And I mean, we've seen him strike out 7, we've seen him strike out 6. And I think the Red Sox, I'd imagine you just tell Juan Valera, I don't really care about the results. We wanted to challenge you. We wanted you to be working in Greenville. We don't really care if your ERA is 7, as long as you're throwing strikes and developing. And I think that's clearly the plan here. They clearly think a lot of him. And understandably so. He's sporting with triple digits as an 18-year-old. And that side of it's really fascinating. But again, I would like to see a little bit more tightness to that slider. a little bit more bite, and then the changeup is clearly just a work in progress. So it is impressive that he's surviving with kind of what he's got so far going for him. And the for those that are watching on YouTube, wrong signing bonus there, but it was $45,000 in 2023.
Wow.
So it is crazy that they signed a guy for $45,000, and he's shifted their perspective enough to say, like, hey, let's aggressively push this guy to high A before his 19th birthday. So clearly he's endeared himself to them pretty quickly.
No doubt.
14, Payton Tolle. And I know a lot of teams were hoping to get Payton Tolle in the second round, and ultimately the Red Sox grab him. 6'7", 260 pounds. A big dude. Just what I like about Tolle is you have a really – is it Tolle or Tolle?
I would assume Tolle.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Great chance of at least being a reliever at the big league level because he's massive. He gets off the charts extension. I think he would be the best extender in Major League Baseball.
I believe it.
7.7 feet of extension. That's insane.
That is
so
nuts.
He's doing that with a 93 to 95 mile an hour fastball, and it's like this crossfire kind of delivery. That fastball, I think, could play like a 70. Yeah. The slider's a work in progress still. It was effective in college, but it hasn't been as effective as a pro. And that's the challenge here. Like, really, it's just been fastball like dominance that's allowed him to be successful so far. And his last time out, he went 4 innings of one hit ball, no runs, 1 walk, 9 Ks. So like you're seeing that. And that was, again, mostly on just the fastball, like 60% fastball and dominated with it. But that was the first outing where the slider started to be a little bit more effective too. He could be a 2-pitch guy and I think be a swing man type for you. But I think this is a dude that you probably develop him at leverage at a certain point. And he could be a very, very good high leverage lefty.
It is shocking to me how athletic of a mover he is at 6'6", 250. And nobody may care about this comp that I'm going to throw at you, but I feel like you may care. The way he follows through, like the delivery itself does not look like this guy, but the athleticism that you see after the ball comes off his fingertips, he is Jack Leiter's doppelganger. When you talk about finishing and kind of having that shuffle after the fact, like he's such an athletic mover. Leiter is what, 6 foot 190?
Yeah.
Like he's a smaller athletic guy. This guy's 6'6", 250, and they follow through the exact same way. And what that tells me is they're both incredibly athletic movers.
It's funny. Like one of the things that you can even see when he's throwing like pitches now too is like right as he finishes, if there's a ground ball, like he'll like spin pivot quick and get over there. Like it's pretty impressive how quickly he moves. You can just watch him like covering first base. He gets down there way quicker than, I think a lot of big, tall lefties that you would see. I think the interesting thing, and that's probably why the Red Sox want to give him time as a starter, is like, okay, well, maybe you find a different secondary pitch. Maybe he finds, a gyro cutter or something different that he commands a little bit better or has a little bit more effectiveness for him. Maybe he finds that changeup feel. But what you can't teach is 7 feet of extension, or really like nearly 8 feet of extension.
Yeah.
And, I think just the ability to throw strikes from that release point.
And the ability to be malleable too, the ability to be an athlete on the mound and adjust where your shortcomings may be. Like you bet on a guy like this learning another pitch, and if he's off in the second inning, being right again in the third inning. Like you bet on guys like that to feel.
Especially in this system. So I'm very fascinated to see, but the great part of what makes him a good prospect is the fallback is, okay, put that guy in the bullpen. He's going to be effective.
Yeah.
13, Allan Castro. Castro is another one of those guys where the batted ball data really, I think, stands out beyond what maybe the surface level stats would imply. And he had a good year last year overall. I think it was near 750 OPS. It was just a consistency thing that was like the interesting conversation there. And also once he got to AA, he struggled. He was 20 years old at the start of last season. So they're getting to AA and struggling. I kind of tanked his numbers a little bit, but he's a switch hitting outfielder who I think the hit tool is ultimately going to be fringy, but you have above average power potential, definitely like plus raw power. He's an above average runner and he can play good defense in a corner. That's a guy that has a great chance to be a good outfielder. But I thought what was interesting is if you look at his production by month last year, it's pretty fascinating. April, he OPS 827, 560 in May, 1,082 in July, and then 600 over the final 2 months. So I don't know what that whole situation is, but some of that in the last 2 months was just getting up to AA.
Sure.
90th percentile of 105 miles per, or excuse me, from 2024, 90th percentile of about 105 miles per hour, hard hit rate of 46.5%. Like those are things that you love to see. He as a switch hitter, like I think that you could talk yourself into him being, an everyday corner outfielder if it all continues, but definitely at least has a chance, I think, of landing as a fourth outfielder because he does have the capability to at least plug into center field with his above average wheels.
Cool. Good news is he's hitting 333 in AA so far this year. Bad news is he's 1 for 3 and he's on the injured list. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens with Allan Castro, but the underlying metrics, they seem to indicate that, he might find his footing in AA once he comes off the IL.
Yeah, he's got time. Like he's going to be 22 and a few weeks here, but yeah, it's definitely a player that I think especially when you look at what he can do from the left side and getting into a pull side, but and also just being able to backspin it the other way too. I know that's a big reason why he had some of the success, in Greenville as well. This is a very underrated prospect in the system.
Yeah.
Number 12, David Sandlin. Sandlin, the arm talent and this is one where like the arm talent and the TrackMan data does not line up with the results. And you kind of wait and you wonder, like, when is that going to happen? Because this stuff is so good in a vacuum. We were talking about an upper 90s fastball here, a hard cutter in the 89 to 90 range, a decent slider, a splitter, a curveball that'll mix in. But it's like it's a four-seamer that's, can get close to triple digits and really flirt with triple digits. Originally with the Royals, was traded over for John Schreiber. It just hasn't fully come together for Sandlin just yet, but he has shown some exciting flashes.
Yeah. I'm struggling to figure out why it isn't clicking for him.
I've
because
struggled too.
You've struggled with that, or you have an idea?
It's you could say a little bit of command, but
no, not even, man. The walk numbers are always low. He's not walking anybody. It feels like he's always kind of around the strike zone. You could argue he's maybe too far into the strike zone. Like sometimes he leaves pitches over the heart of the plate, and obviously anybody is going to get hit if they're over the heart of the plate. So maybe it's execution within the strike zone, but it's hard because you look at that delivery itself is unorthodox. The TrackMan data is unorthodox. Everything about this guy is outlier, except for the earned runs. It's so weird because he's striking dudes out. He's not walking dudes. It's just sometimes he gets hit a little bit, and it's bizarre to me. How often are there blow up starts in his ledger? I'm going to pull up the game log here because I am kind of curious. Where does this ERA come from? Is it 3 innings every time, or is it 1 run, or 3 runs, partner? Or is it 1 run, 6 runs?
They kind of short leashed him last year, and I think it was because he entered the year with a little bit of arm issues. But home runs in general, I think so to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of the 2-3 runs and 4 innings, and think about it. If you have a short leash where you're only going to be able to go 3-4 innings and you have a home run problem, you could kind of pitch all right, but you gave up a home run and 2-run shot and you give up 2 runs in 3 innings.
Yeah.
Your ERA sucks. So that's probably part of it. You look at what happened last year, he gave up 14 homers in how many innings would that have been? That would be 57 innings.
Yeah.
That's I think the crux of the problem. And he had a stretch where he gave up a home run in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games. And then he had another stretch where he gave up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games of a home run. And that's 7 home runs in 5 games. It's going to be tough to succeed that way. He gives up the home runs because he gets 20 vert on a fastball. It is a higher release at 6.2, but still, if you're getting 20 vert on a 96 to 98 mile an hour fastball, that should be dominating. And that kind of goes back to your initial point where I do think he's just missing over the middle with it too much.
Yeah. Because, you have a 4-seamer. If you tug it down just a little bit, guys are going to hit it out of the ballpark. And we bring this up. Verlander at points has had a home run problem. Garrett Cole at points has had a home run problem. I think, one of the best examples of it is Hunter Green. Like Hunter Green had a home run problem when his fastball was over the heart of the plate. And now his fastball is not over the heart of the plate and he doesn't have a home run problem. So, if this guy is executing nonstop at the top of the zone, the home run problem is not going to be as glaring as it is right now. But if you tug it down just a couple of times, he's at a level in AA where guys are going to start to take advantage of that. Yeah. Like you can bully your way through with a 20-inch fastball. You can get your way through the lower minors, low A, high A. Nobody's going to touch it. But, these data darling fastballs, like they're going to start to get hit in AA if you're not executing.
100%, unless you're just off the charts like Brian Wu, and even then, like guys will start to adjust. But the last thing on Sandlin is, I think at the very least, though, you put this guy in a bullpen role. He's going to be like sitting 98.
Yeah.
And then he can get away with the end zone miss a little bit more, especially when it's 1 inning spurts. I think it's just guys adjust and they start to see more pitches. That's where it can shift a bit. But I would like to see a more effective out pitch because right now he's just got that cutter, and that cutter is like his best out pitch. And when it's hard and harder, I think that's also part of the problem. So if he could find something with a little bit more depth and a little bit slower that he can land more consistently, I think that'd make a big difference for him too. But this is still, again, another guy he's going to be a big league arm.
Yeah.
Number 11, Yoelin Cespedes. And he slipped a little bit in the system, a guy that I've long liked, but he slipped partly because the system is good and also partly because he has just been hurt a lot. And I think that's been the frustrating aspect. I've been so excited to see this guy play more because the early returns were really impressive at the DSL. And then he got off to a great start at the complex last year in 25 games. He had 1,048 OPS, but then he got hurt again. He's small. It's like 5'9", 180 pounds, but he has some frame-defying pop and can really get into it into the pull side. It's a violent swing, and there's a lot of effort in it. And I think at that point, sometimes will result in him being a little too aggressive, but he gets it off and it works. And I think you can see that he can get into at least average power. The problem is he's not a shortstop. He's going to be a second baseman. And if the approach is a little bit aggressive, he does have a pretty good feel to hit, but he's going to have to really mash because there's not a lot of value outside of that. But there's a potential for average hit and power, maybe average hit and above average power that can make him, a productive second baseman.
Is he Yoenis's brother or cousin?
No relation.
No relation?
No relation.
Really?
You would think so, even with the names being similar, right?
I would think so. Yoenis and Yoelin Cespedes, but no relation. Interesting. He does. I was going to say, like, he doesn't look like Yoenis.
Yeah.
Yoenis was an absolute tank, and Yoelin is not at this point just yet. But you feel like he can grow into a little bit more pop, even with like the slider frame. Obviously, he's not 5'9", 180 anymore, but he still is kind of like a smaller guy.
Yeah, I don't know how much bigger he could really be than that, even still at this point. But I do because he gets it off, and like it's just, can you do it consistently enough can you recognize spin well enough to get off those top end swings? But like we've seen him, flash above average EVs and he hits the ball in the air consistently. I mean, that's the other side of it too. Like in the 25 games last year, it was a 35% ground ball rate. In the 45 games in the DSL, it was a 35% ground ball rate. And then this year it's a 36% ground ball rate. So when you have above average EVs and you elevate, I think there's a chance for above average power. I had him settling at average game power just because I think it might be hard to get it off as consistently as he can. But if, again, that's close to 20 home runs there. If he's hitting 260 with close to 20 home runs at second base, and he's sure-handed enough there where I think he could be a fine defender and make all the plays you need to make. He's just so explosive rotationally. I wouldn't count that out. But there's a lot of pressure on him to get to those 20 home runs, I think, to be an everyday player. Number 10. How about this Brandon Clarke guy? Not the basketball player. The pitcher from, what was it? State College of Florida? He started at Alabama, then went to State College of Florida. He had some intrigue as a prep arm. He was one of the more exciting prep arms. I think left-handed prep arms in the class. Ultimately goes to Alabama. Battled injuries there, didn't really ever get his footing. And then at State College of Florida is where he, I think, really started to turn some heads, where I think he pitched 2 seasons there. But in the second season, once he got healthy, it was 107 punch outs and 74 1/3 innings. Command improved significantly. And then the Red Sox take him in the 5th round. And I mean, I think some of it was the fact that he was already heading in this direction, but they, kind of help him keep pushing in that direction. And his pro debut has just been, I think, as ridiculous as any pro debut we've seen from a guy outside of day one and outside of Power 5 in a while. Just pure dominance from him. 6'4" lefty as well. That 225 pounds. That also incredible athlete for his size. 14 1/3 innings so far this year. He's already got up to high A. Now he quickly was just too good for low A.
Yeah. 3
hits, 1 earned run, 24 strikeouts, only 2 walks. Opponents are hitting 0.63 against this guy so far this year.
There's like this weird blend for Clarke in his delivery of this cool, calm, I'm not going to rush at all. And then all of a sudden there's this whippy explosion as soon as his hands break. Like, it's this blend of he knows exactly what he's doing and I'm going to let my limbs take me absolutely anywhere. That somehow works and it's really repeatable. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, It's that slow step back and then he taps the hill with his left foot like 5-6 times. And then it's that slow build up. And then all of a sudden the arms go flying and he's got a little bit of that inverted W and the legs are pushing forward. Like, everything is jumping at a hitter after looking so calm and controlled. It's fascinating to me, and I feel like that would just be an absolute mental pretzel as a hitter.
Oh, no doubt. Because he bring up a great point. He pitches at his own tempo, and a lot of hitters use the cue of when the hands break, that's where I'm going to start my move. And if you do that with him, you're going to feel a little bit early, but then you're going to be very early because of how quick he's going to get that pitch on you, because he breaks his hands. But he is so athletic and has such good lower half control that he's kind of sitting there for a little bit. Like, he breaks the hands and it's slow. And then, as you mentioned, he comes at you. So most pitchers, when they break their hands, it's going to be a similar tempo to when they're going to throw. And It's not that way with Clarke. Then he gives you this cross-body delivery as well, which is going to be disgusting. Then you factor in that he gets almost 7 feet of extension, actually like roughly 7 feet of extension on a fastball that averages so far, and I know they haven't stretched him out fully yet. His longest outing so far has been about 57 pitches, but the velo hasn't dropped at all when they've stretched him even from 40 to 57. If anything, it actually went up. He's averaged 97.5 miles per hour on the fastball. So you're getting 97 mile an hour fastball from a 5'5" release height that's getting plus extension. Yeah. And I mean, the characteristics, like, I think you got to throw them out a little bit in terms of like vert and whatever, because it's a low release crossfire plus extension with his own tempo. It's going to work a little differently, but he's got the 2-seamer and then a 4-seamer. I think the 2-seamer is going to be what he more naturally throws. And then the slider, I think, could end up becoming and developing into one of the best sliders in minor league baseball.
Cool.
Because you think about that release, all the things you just talked about.
Right.
How do you have a shot at that slider? So
if he's landing it consistently where he needs to, like sweeping it away from lefties and then kind of bearing it on the back foot of righties, like that can absolutely, I see what you're saying, become one of the best sliders in minor league baseball.
88 miles per hour. Opponents are 0 for 21 with 15 strikeouts against that slider this year.
Damn.
I understand it's low A and 1 star to high A, but it's a gross pitch. This is a guy that the only reason he's not a little bit higher is one, because we did these write-ups probably after 2 starts of his, but also he's got to show that he can hold it. He has some of the injury history and things like that. But once he shows that he can hold it, and I expect him to, he's just going to fly up rankings. This guy probably has as good of a chance as anybody outside of the top 100 to get into the top 100 in this Red Sox system, which feels weird saying that from the 10th ranked prospect, but it's a guy that was throwing a JUCO last year and has a history of command. And I mean, he walked 7 in a JUCO outing last year.
Right.
So like, I understand he's not doing that now, but you never know when a guy gets to AA, sometimes things can shift and one thing throws him out. Like, can you get back there? I mean, look at what we were seeing with Quinn Matthews. So I just want to see a little bit more, but this is a guy that I like. If he keeps doing it, could easily be in the top 100 by midseason. As crazy as that sounds.
And all the non-top 100 guys within this system are like in the upper minors too. So it benefits him being in the lower minors. But yeah, it's fascinating. And just my last thing on this, like we talk all the time about how you deviate from the norm. And with Clarke, like it's the delivery itself, along with the extension, along with the velo. There are three ways that he deviates from the norm. And the norm is what, like 5'9" release height, 15 inches of vert on the fastball.
15 and a half, 16. Yeah.
Yeah. 16 inches of vert on the fastball. It's, 6.1 feet of extension.
A little bit more. Give him a little bit more.
6.3. And then it's 93, 94 with the fastball.
Yep.
And he deviates in all of those ways, literally all of them. And, I think the biggest one is DeGrom is always the example that I go to when you're just a beat off timing wise. And like this guy, we just talked about how he is a beat off timing wise, and that will help you out. That's how you become great, is you deviate from the norm in a bunch of different ways.
And stuff plus models don't account for that side of things.
Which is why Skeens is grosser than any stuff plus model wants to give him credit for.
Yeah,
because
correct.
He's huge and he's crossfire and the timing is just a little off.
And then being able to replicate those other data points while being different than everybody else is also the hardest part, because everyone else is similar, because that's generally the best way to achieve those data points. Right. So when you can do it while not doing those same things, that's I think one of the biggest deficiencies in those models that we see on social media quite often. Yeah. Number 9, Hunter Dobbins. This is a floor ceiling conversation. This is the funny thing about having like a Brandon Clarke into a Hunter Dobbins. But the reality is, like, you have a big league starter right now. So that's the really hard part of it. Like, the ceilings aren't even close, right? What we're talking about, Brandon Clarke, if it all works out, could be a middle rotation starter at the big league level. But Hunter Dobbins, if it all works out, could be a 4. If it all doesn't work out, it's probably a fringe 5. So because it would have to be, things would have to go backwards from where they currently are, which it could happen. But like I'm not going to project backwards. Right. This is just a really solid arm that I think is a great case study of how the Red Sox have been able to apply different things to different arms, because he's more of that 50s across the board, like just throw a bunch of different pitches at you. But over the last year or so, the stuff has just gotten better. His fastball ticked up. I think that obviously helped him a ton, going from, 94 to 95 to 95 to 96 can make a big difference when you're a kitchen sink guy. And then everything else playing up off of that. I think the addition of the sweeper even helped a little bit. And then just finding a good feel for everything. He's just going to massage his way through lineups. And they added him to the 40-man for a reason ahead of the 2025 season.
Yeah.
This guy's just capable of eating innings.
He's 2 different pitchers. And what I mean by that, Hunter Dobbins against left-handed hitters is 4-seamer split curveball. Against right-handed hitters, he's 4-seamer slider sweeper. So like a lefty has seen, he's thrown however many pitches so far in his major league career to this point. This guy has thrown 172 pitches, across 2 starts. And Dobbins has thrown 28 sliders. Lefties have seen just 5 of those. He's thrown 25 splitters. Righties have seen just 2 of those. He's thrown 23 curveballs. Righties have seen just 2 of those. He's thrown 21 sweepers. Lefties have seen 0 of those. So he has 2 different arsenals against lefties and righties, and he's comfortable flipping back and forth. The way that I would structure a lineup against him is I would just alternate lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, and see if he can try and replicate absolutely anything. Yeah. Like stacking a side against Hunter Dobbins, I think makes no sense, because then you allow him to get comfortable in this arsenal. When you could be 2 different pitchers, like that has the makings of a 5. Like,
and that's why I think it's going to be that, because you have 50 grade pitches, right? So a sweeper, it's a 50 grade sweeper, 45 grade sweeper. Against righties, that's going to play like a 50 grade pitch. a 50 grade pitch that is split dependent against lefties will play like a below average pitch.
Yeah.
But for certain guys that have the 50 across the board type of arsenal, but they only have 3 pitches or maybe a fourth that they'll mix in,
then they have to go to 1. Yeah.
They have to throw it against the lefties. And then that pitch doesn't perform nearly as well, and they get teed off on against those lefties. So they're not necessarily able to turn lineups over enough to be that 5 starter. But as you mentioned, because he has the ability to go at hitters in different ways, that's the best way to manage an arsenal with no plus pitch.
Yeah.
Like you could probably ask 5 different scouts and they may give you 5 different pitches that they like best from Dobbins, because it depends on what day you saw him. Yeah. And I love that out of my 5 starter.
Right.
So I think that part's great. And it's a cut ride fastball that he's leaned into even more and trusted it. And the cut ride fastballs are so dependent on location. And we've seen that where like some cut ride guys get teed off on, but other guys, like the hitters struggle so much to barrel them because they just continuously miss under it. And I think that's what we've seen with Dobbins, where he only allowed 2 home runs last year, because even though he's generally getting a fair amount of fly balls here and there, like it was just hitters just were missing straight under it. And then the other pitches, he can get his ground balls when he needs to. This is a really solid innings eating type for them. And I think a big reason why they were okay trading Quinn Priester is where Dobbins was able to get himself this year, where now with that cut ride fastball averaging 95.5, he's just in a good spot where you think he can miss enough barrels within the zone. And then the confidence in the big leagues, like he is not nibbling. He's challenging, and it's worked.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, he is just 2025's Richard Fitz.
Yeah.
Like, they developed Fitz into a place where he can be a back end starter for them, and a good back end starter. And lo and behold, here's Hunter Dobbins this go around.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And it's a great situation to be in when you've got some of the top end arms that you've added to the fold here, and some guys that have been banged up to have that depth. Another guy that could be contributing to that depth very soon is Connelly Early. And I got to see him in the spring breakout game, and that was really the first time I'd seen him. I was really impressed with how he moves on the mound too. And this is a left-hander who has just gotten better and better and better as you check in. 5th round pick in 2023. And I don't think was a super highly touted guy out of high school. Ends up transferring to UVA from Army. And he had thrown his first 2 years at Army. And then at UVA started to, I think, kind of boost his stock even more. But again, still a 5th round pick. 6'3", 195 pounds. The fastball is ticked up this year, which I think was very helpful for a left-hander that is pretty changeup dependent. But that changeup might be one of the better changeups in this system, if not the best changeup in this system. It's disgusting. And opponents, they have not picked up a hit off of it this year. And the way that it tunnels off of his fastball is ridiculous. But you watch some of the starts, man, like he is just piecing up hitters with that changeup. And then the fact that the fastball now is averaging 94, he can speed them back up with that. And then nothing jumps out with the spin. Like he's clearly a pronator, but he can do enough with the spin to I think mix in an average slider, average curveball, taste breaking cutter. And I think he has a great chance to be a 4 starter.
It is so funny watching his hair kind of grow picture by picture from the Service Academy. So he kept it really tight at Army. And then it was a little longer, like it was poking out of the back of the hat at Virginia. And now he's like actually got flow out of the back of the cap in pro ball, which is funny. But like the I don't want to call it a loophole because it's a really tough decision for these guys. But the whole idea of starting your career at a service academy, if you're there for a 3rd year, you have to enlist, you have to serve. So that leads to the transfer of some of these guys. So you will typically see the best players at service academies leave after their sophomore year. Like Skeens at Air Force, right? He left because if he stayed for a 3rd year, he would have to enlist and he would have to serve.
Maybe in the Noah Song situation. And it's like kind of like a what could have been.
Right, exactly. And Noah Song was a guy that could be in the big leagues right now, but he was on a submarine for what, 3 years?
Yeah. And then he came back, and I think I'd undergo Tommy John.
Yeah, but early, like he got out of the service academy to go kind of pursue this professional dream, and so far, so really good, right?
Yeah. I mean, the changeup feel. What's interesting is, isn't it funny? And it's more common than you think, but like some of these guys that have a better feel for their changeup than any other pitch, like that's where he's at too. 70% strike rate this year on the changeup. Everything else is below that, and especially the fastball command. I think some of that's because it's ticked up a little bit.
Sure.
Just trying to land it more consistently, but he's got to be better than a 57% strike rate on everything else. So that's going to be the next piece there to get him to that number 4 upside. But there's another guy that if he's filling up the zone more, I think is going to be a very buzzy prospect because you have a 6'3", 195, 200-pound athlete with a plus changeup that could be better than that and a great feel for it. It's just, and the other pitches look good. It's just he hasn't been able to locate them consistently enough to, I think, it's been consistent enough to have success this year so far. But I think to really get excited about like him flying up to the big leagues just yet. But he's in Double-A and doing well, and I think that's the really exciting part of this. And I mean, no one's hitting him. Opponents are hitting 146 against him through 4 starts with a 40% strikeout rate. That 13% walk rate is going to need to cut down a little bit, but a lot of that's predicated on the 4 walks the last time out. He was not walking guys through the first few, so might just be a little bit of a mulligan there. See how he bounces back. But this is another guy that I think could sneak his way into the back end of top 100 list if he keeps doing this.
You had a couple of mulligans in Pompano Beach the other day.
Yeah, I would say so. I think I lost about 8 golf balls when we were out there the other day.
I was 6 or 7 deep, I think.
Yeah, tough game.
Tough game.
Can you tell us who number 7 is?
Jhostynxon. Jhostynxon Garcia. I learned how to say that name.
Jhostynxon. That's so much easier than it looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's good.
The password. Password's great.
That was one that I think that's one of the best passwords. It would be one of the best passwords. One of the best nicknames I think that there is right now in minor league baseball.
If you're trying to hack something of me that I create in the next year or so, I might actually just make this guy's name my password.
Yeah, but I think it might stump myself. I'd have to go check.
It's such a good nickname. It is the best nickname. And aside from Big Dumper for Cal Raleigh, the password when he does get up to the big leagues, that is absolutely going to be
it's electric. We should already get the merch going. For those that are listening, that may not be Red Sox fans. What are you talking about? That sounds like a pretty normal name. Jhostynxon.
Yeah. Jhostynxon Garcia.
Sweet.
I will say, when I was in Fort Myers this spring, your friend and mine, Danny Alvarez, who does great work at El Extra Base, was chatting with Jhostynxon Garcia, and he walked up to the password, and that dude is a physical specimen, being as young as he is. I was floored at how built that kid was. He
almost I look at him and I'm like, don't add any more muscle. Because there's a point of now you're losing elasticity, and he's not there yet, but I'm like, he's good. You're fast, you're super strong, you're still fast. Stay. Don't add any more.
Right.
He's clearly a gym rat, and sometimes those guys end up don't Tyler O'Neill yourself.
Right.
He looks awesome so far this year. There are points though where that operation does look a little bit stiff. And I put in the write-up, I said he's built like an NFL running back. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's aspects of the swing sometimes where it does get a little bit rigid, and I think it's just because he's so strong. But I still think there's enough athleticism and fluidity to make it work. I do think that he is going to ultimately be a fringy hitter, but so far this year, the contact rates have been above average. So maybe he exceeds that. I just, from what I've seen, and the way that the swing path is kind of geared, it's geared for lift, which is fine. He hits the ball really freaking hard, so it works. He gets his swing off, though. I noticed that in the spring breakout game, and I was like, maybe he's just having fun in the breakout game. I watched a lot of ABs last year. He ain't there to hit a single, man. He wants to get it off, and that's fine. But I think that is going to compromise the hit tool a little bit, but I think that's also going to result in him pushing to 25 plus home runs if it all works out. I think some have him carved out as a center fielder, and I think he can plug in there. I think with the speed and the arm in the closing, he has the ability to finish plays, but he puts himself in positions too often. This, you can tell the guys that I watched way too much of their defensive video. He puts himself in position too often to have to go make that play, like to go make the diving finishing play or whatever, because the jumps and the routes aren't great. So like he hedges it. It's kind of the Corbin Carroll conversation, but Corbin Carroll is like the ultimate example of that. His jumps and reads aren't great. And I know you got to probably see that in the press box, probably no better vantage point than that. Than when you got to see that when they were in town. But then he has 80 speed to go close in and go make the grab. And then he's the athleticism to finish the play. That's Garcia, but not the 80 speed side of things. But I think you have more time to hope that the reads and routes can get better. I wouldn't rule out center field as an everyday thing, but I think he may be more of a fill-in guy in center and a solid corner guy where that arm will play more. But it really is all about the bat with this guy.
Yeah, and I think you would have no problem dealing with the monster. Like we saw Manny play a fine enough left field, and this guy's a hell of a lot better defender than Manny Ramirez ever was.
No, I like him in a corner because like closing speed in a corner with like shaky reads,
it's fine. It's fine. You get the job done. Yeah,
that's the big, and that's why Corbin grades out really well in a corner, but in center all of a sudden he doesn't grade out as well. You got to cover more ground. But 106 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. That's going to play. He's got to cut the chase down, but I don't know. There's a lot to like here. Is there like a player that he reminds you of? It is a little Tyler O'Neill-y to me. I think that is kind of a similar comp. I don't know what you think.
A little bit. I do like the Tyler O'Neill shout. I'm trying to think of just like who else I would kind of throw at you, but there isn't anybody that jumps to the forefront of my mind right now. I'm just scrolling through like the war leaders among outfielders right now.
That when people ask for a comp because I don't. But usually when I have to do that, I'm like, okay, there may not just be a very direct comp there then.
I don't think there's a direct comp, to be honest. Like Andy Pages kind of jumps out, I guess, but Pages is a little bit more fluid.
He's a little bit more pure, and look at him. Patience is a virtue. He's been awesome.
He's been awesome.
But Garcia, Double-A, 22.
I got one.
The entire season. Oh, let's hear it.
A Rosarena.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah,
that is a good one. But
that's my comp.
Where you're going to get flashes. He's going to pop a ball 112, and you're like, oh my gosh, is he going to hit 35 homers? And then he probably gets a little frustrating for stretches.
Yeah.
And then when he's hot, he's hot. I think he's going to be one of those hitters that when he's hot, it's really impressive. And then when he's cold, it's frustrating. But he's going to be hot enough and provide value, on the base pass and things like that to be a solid everyday player.
I'm going to save my Andy Pages thoughts for the Just Baseball show because I've got plenty of them.
Love it. I love it. I love that guy. We loved him as a prospect. Those that have been with us on the show for a long time. That it's exciting. It's annoying because the Dodgers don't need it, but like players in a vacuum, I like.
No, it's cool. Like for me, shut down the Luis Robert trade thing. Like you have Luis Robert in center field right now.
He's awesome. Better right now.
He's better.
Yophery Rodriguez, man, another one. If you listen to the show a little bit more recently, you know that we love Yophery, dating back to the days with the Brewers. I still can't really understand why they traded him of all people, and with a comp pick on top of it. And I think I got a lot of feedback, or not feedback. I got a lot of questions, like people. I think mostly Red Sox, both Red Sox and Brewers fans, like, oh, you're higher on Yophery than others. Like, if he was traded here, like, maybe he's not, as highly regarded as you think or whatever. I don't know, man. He's been pretty damn good since he's gone to Greenville as well. And since he's joined this Red Sox organization, he's starting to get into the power more. I know a lot of scouts are kind of eager to move him off of center. I think he can play an average center, but the approach is so good. The field to hit is above average. He's starting to flash a little bit more of that impact. When you check in, he's just a really sound player that I think has a great chance of being an everyday outfielder.
I think Yophery for Priester straight up would have made some sense.
That would have made sense.
At the end of the day, it is 6 years of control of a major league caliber starter on the back end of a rotation. But Priester has thrown to a sub-4 ERA through his first 5 starts with Milwaukee. So, like, there you go. I think straight up it made a lot of sense. But attaching like a pick at the end of the first round, I was like, whoa, that's a lot.
Whoa.
It's a lot. But shout out the Red Sox. Matt Arnold knows what he's doing in Milwaukee. So does Craig Breslow.
Exactly. I trust the Brewers front office as much as any in Major League Baseball. So it's just more of one of those where it's like, maybe I was actually a little too low on Yophery, or, maybe the Brewers just saw a situation where we have, the Carolina Mudcats alone, we have all these guys We need an arm, and like it might be an overpay in a vacuum, but it's not going to kill us.
It's not going to kill you because you have all these guys making their way through right now. And at the end of the day, you've got Chourio for the next decade. You can pay Frelick if you want because Frelick's not going to be expensive. You can retain Garrett Mitchell for as long as you want. So they probably looked at a 5-10-year plan and didn't see Yophery Rodriguez being all that pertinent to it. Yep. But they saw Priester as being pertinent to it over the next 3-4 years.
No, absolutely.
But Yophery, like, it just seems like he is a obviously really young guy. It just seems like he's a well-rounded high floor bat at this point in high A.
Well, and it was funny because I think when people were asking, like, oh, well, the numbers aren't that great or anything like that.
He's
like,
young.
He's young. He was 18 years old last year at low A. He's 19. He doesn't turn 20 until December, and he's succeeding at high A. He's a 901 OPS while being traded in high A as a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's ever going to jump off the page, but if you have above average hit, and now it looks like that plate discipline could be trending towards plus potential with the way that he is controlling his at-bats as a 19-year-old in high A with above average run and decent pop. This is just I think an average tools across the board guy that gets the most out of him. And I think has a great chance of being just a solid regular in the outfield. Yeah. I'm pumped on him, and I think it was a great get for a system that's already good to just keep bolstering it up as these guys that we're about to get to are going to graduate.
Yep.
We'll get to the top 5 in a second, which starts with Luis Perales. But before that, one more break. So not too much to add here on Perales because he's unfortunately recovering from Tommy John surgery after what was the beginning of just a ridiculous, I would say breakout, but he also was phenomenal, I think, from a swing and miss perspective in 2023. But we were seeing a next step forward from Perales, who in 2024 saw his fastball, which, by the way, the fastball already had elite characteristics, and he was throwing 95. In 2024, before he blew out, he was averaging 97.5 on his fastball.
Yeah.
97.5 with elite ride from this over the top angle that it just sometimes over the top can be easy to see. This is not one of those times. This was one that was really upsetting to see him go down because it was very clear what he was doing, like, and what he was on the cusp of becoming, and he still will become. Yeah, I think as he comes back, it's a little bit of a detour. But, I mean, he was overwhelming hitters. But beyond that, filling up the zone as much as ever. It's a 67% strike rate before he went down in 2024. And the last thing I'll mention before I kick it over to you is he finds the splitter with more consistency. He's hunting that first strike at a 68% clip. And then that gyro slider as well. The cutter at like 89 was ridiculous. So he went from being very fastball dependent in 2023, where it was 62% fastball usage in 2023. And again, it's plus fastball. So it worked. Opponents hit 190 against it. To 2024, the fastball gets even better, which is nuts, but so does the rest of his arsenal. So he actually cuts down the fastball usage and then has the cutter, splitter, slider that have all come along. A guy that had serious command issues at points was landing his secondaries for a strike at 69%. I can't wait to watch this guy when he comes back. And he's still only 22 years old. He's going to be 22 for the entirety of the year, by the way.
He's a freak. I was just looking at the metrics on his fastball and like, okay, he was striking out 31% of hitters with his four-seam fastball. But Luis Perales, you mentioned the vert was insane. He was averaging, 20.5 inches of induced vertical break on his fastball? Only 4 inches of horizontal break too. Yeah. So it's like that rocket ship straight up. That's why we like Bubba at this point, right? Because it's 19-2. Like with Perales, it's 21-4.
Yeah.
That is actually a rocket ship fastball. And it's one of the best fastballs in minor league baseball. So really excited to see what it looks like when he comes back. The question is, where's it going to be? And I'm not talking where's it going to be from a metrics perspective, because it's probably going to be similar. I'm talking where's it going to be from a landing in the catcher's glove perspective. Is it going to be over the heart of the plate? Is it going to be missing upstairs? It's just a matter of getting back into the swing of things after Tommy John surgery. And I feel good about Luis Perales possibly being, right back at the top of the zone again. So it's a fascinating fastball.
And there's some violence to the delivery, but it seemed like he toned it down a bit in 24 and found that consistent flow down the mound, because it's so over the top and then sometimes you can just kind of spray from there, but he maintains that direction well. And the thing that you mentioned with the command, like he was finally taking that next step forward. It was 66% strike rate. That was about 5% from the year prior. Then he goes down. So there may be that adjustment period of just kind of getting the ball rolling off your fingertips and everything again. But if that command is there, this is a guy that once he's healthy, he definitely is a top 100 prospect. And I mean, the combination of that elite fastball and how that sets up a trio of secondaries that made a leap last year. I mean, that splitter is plus, that cutter looks like above average, and the slider looks average. So I'm very eager to see him come back, and hopefully his recovery is all on track.
Yep.
Number 4, Franklin Arias. Arias, I mean, the second I set to see him in spring breakout, I had texted you and I said, damn it, I should have had him in the top 100 list. And he's actually in high A now. He just got promoted a few days ago and already hit his first home run in like his 4th game. He was initially a glove first guy, and he looks like he can be a solid defender at shortstop for sure still. But the bat has come along so impressively for a guy that was signed as more of a glove first prospect. He's still just 19 years old, will be until November. Yeah. The EVs are above average for his age. The approach is advanced for his age. The field of hit is advanced for his age. He's guaranteed to be on the top 100 update. And I think the fact that the Red Sox are already pushing him at 19 years old to high A, I think says a lot about, what they think about his polish and his ability. And he's off to a phenomenal start to this year too. If he can catch more power, I think he could be a star.
Did he see our guy Shank?
I don't think so. I'm not sure though.
I mean, it's amazing to me how long his front leg hangs in the air.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's like he's balancing, dude. He's standing on one leg, and then all of a sudden he drops and fires. Like from the point, I'm trying to think about like a timing cue that I can give you where he lifts his leg up. It's like when the pitcher's leg comes up, his leg comes up, and he's hanging out there for it's hanging out for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden it just drops down and he fires. Is that going to create a timing issue for him?
It won't until it does.
Okay. Great answer. Yeah.
Like it's so tough because certain guys, like most hitters, I'd say like that could be difficult, but it doesn't get up that high. So like if he's a little bit more rushed, he can get it down quick.
Yeah.
And he seems to balance it really easily. So I think, and usually what'll end up happening is you'll see guys that, okay, it's creating a little bit, I'm getting pulled onto my front foot more. Basically, if the stuff is better and he's not recognizing it as easily, let's say, okay, I'm not recognizing spin as easily. I'm going to then get that foot down quicker because I think it's a fastball, and then, crap, it's a slider. I'm already down. Now my timing's thrown off. But the thing with him is his pitch recognition is so good that I think he might just be okay, because if you're recognizing, then you're going to be able to hang up there and be good. I think he might just be one of those guys that can get away with it, but it is something to monitor. And it's a great question because he does still have slightly inflated ground ball rates, not crazy high, but if that ground ball rate creeps above 50%, then I'm looking at him and saying, maybe this is a guy that needs to tone it down a little bit. But he, as you mentioned, controls it really, really well. He looks like he can just hang out up there all day.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to work because of the way he recognizes too, and recognizes pitches. But worst case, if it doesn't work, he doesn't look like a guy that's very dependent on that. Or like, I think he can find a way to kind of hang out into his back hip, whether his leg is floating or not, because there's just clearly impressive lower half control. This is the way that he likes to do it right now. But I think he'd be able to adjust and make it work in a different way. Clearly, he enables himself to see the ball early and be in a hitting position early, and that's resulted in great contact rates and good bat to ball. I think that is going to transfer ultimately, whether he needs to make a subtle adjustment from that or not. You can't really teach that ability.
Yep.
Then you add in the defensive acumen. And I mean, even if the power is 45 grade, I think still projects pretty well as an everyday shortstop because you got above average glove, decent run, above average hit, above average plate discipline. But if that power can push a little bit closer to 45, 50, you could be looking at a really good everyday shortstop.
Yep.
The interesting thing is you might be looking at a really good everyday shortstop at 3. And he's getting closer and closer to also forcing the Red Sox hand a little bit of like, okay, well, what do we do here? Because he's another guy that looks a little bit too good for AAA. Marcelo Mayer. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what this all looks like in the short term, in the long term, and I think even the Red Sox are still trying to figure that out. But Marcelo Mayer, I mean, he's doing just about everything you want to see from him at the AAA level so far this year. And I mean, I know that the WRC plus is only 113, but he's launched 7 home runs in 26 games. He's only striking out 19% of the time. I think he's always going to be a little bit more aggressive. He's not going to walk a ton, but he's gotten better in that regard. I mean, if he is now adding plus power, because I've talked about it, I've always been a little bit more skeptical on the hit tool. Like I've always thought it's more likely to be fringy, and the plate discipline is fringy. That's why I was always like, okay, well, and the glove is good. I don't think it's, Carson Williams. It's the guy, he's got a slug. Well, he looks like he's slugging.
Yeah. Yes. There's something about the way he's playing ball right now that just screams like, hey, don't forget about me. When we talk about Roman and Campbell, I think, and I've been guilty of doing this too, where I view Roman and Campbell as being greater than Mayer. I almost view him as like the clear-cut 3, and he's like, don't do this to me yet. I understand that Roman's the top dog here, and Campbell already got signed, and Campbell's hitting the crap out of the ball at the major league level right now, but don't forget that this is a big 3 and not just a dynamic duo.
No.
And like at one point, I think Teal was probably ahead of Mayer last year, just based on Mayer being on the shelf and Teal performing. But now that Teal's in Chicago, obviously it's a little different now. This guy, when you look at what he's done at the AAA level to this point this year, he's been a near perfect baseball player.
Yeah, no, seriously. And even like, I know he hasn't walked a ton, but that's more of just a AAA effect. He's actually cut his chase down more this year. So that is encouraging as well. I think that the fascinating thing too is big part of my concern around him was the injury trends, where it just seemed like towards the middle of every year, he'd start to get run down, and you could see it in the results, and then he'd end up hitting the IL. And that is a concern for me, especially at the shortstop position. Like you want your shortstop to, well, one, they got to handle, I think, a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah.
And two, it's the position where you have the biggest gap, I think, when you have to plug and play somebody, right? Yeah. Like if your second baseman goes down, it's a little bit easier to plug a guy in. Corner outfield, a little bit easier to plug a guy in. Sometimes even in center field, you can shift a guy over that can get by there, but the offensive production is going to be there. Shortstop, like the offensive production usually falls off a cliff, and you end up with like Garrett Hampson filling in there. Yeah. And that's the tough part, where it's like, okay, we need to see Marcelo Mayer like show that he can play a full season here. But seeing him tap into more power in terms of the prospect intrigue side of things is absolutely huge for the reasons I said. I do think the hit tool is ultimately going to be fringy. I think breaking balls are going to give him some problems at the big league level. The approach getting better to the point where that might push closer to 50, and the power looking like it could push to 60 if he's consistently elevating more like he has. I think you can just so easily see an above average everyday shortstop here. It's easy to forget he's still just 22 years old. So far this season, a 90th percentile exit velocity of 107 miles per hour.
Damn.
He's absolutely murdering baseballs. Hard hit rate of 52%. So I think you could look at that game power and say, maybe there is 60 upside here. So that's the part that I think really has elevated him for me.
Yeah.
Number 2, guy that will probably be graduating off of this list any day now, Kristian Campbell. I have second base / outfield here. I hope they just keep playing him at second base.
I think they will.
Putting him in center is just tough. And I honestly think it affects him too, because I'm looking at the last 2 starts he had in center field. In those games, he's 2 for 7 with 5 punchies. It's just a lot to worry about. Actually, here's the last 3 games in center field. This is weird. He's 3 for 11 with 8 strikeouts. Could be a coincidence. Could be the fact that he's trying to survive in a position that he hasn't played a lot of. He's there to mash, and he's mashing.
Yeah.
And this is a fun learning lesson for me because we talked about the swing mechanics and just how it seemed very difficult for those to work at a degree that would be, I think, all-star sustainable. I thought he, punish mistakes enough to, and the approach would be good enough to hover around, high 700s, low 800s OPS, and then do some other little things, run and provide some versatility, but also just good defense at second base potentially, that he can be, an above average regular. But I think you're seeing more of that all-star upside, and what I've been able to kind of learn and hopefully apply to other prospect, analysis in the future is that there's always exceptions to the rule. And I've preached that in other contexts, but with swing mechanics, I thought, yes, of course there's some exceptions, but when you get so far away from what normally works, at the big league level, that may get exposed. It's 29 games so far, but he's just been so freaking good that I think it's clear that if you're an elite mover, and this guy is an elite mover, he can contort his body in ways throughout, before his swing, as he's swinging, when he's getting his swing off, in ways that hitters can't do. So if he gets himself into a weird position pre-launch, he has the ability to get himself out of it as well as anybody. So just realizing that there are freak athletes who could be exceptions to the hitting mechanic rules and things that we know or follow. And that was the cool learning lesson from this, because Kristian Campbell is that kind of freak.
Your approach to this is way too healthy and mature. You have lost all credibility.
Sure.
You should go touch grass. What else? What are your other favorites?
You lost all credibility was always a good
one. Lost all credibility is a good one.
Yeah, like, the guy that weren't you low, and now anytime I have like another opinion, it'll be like, well, weren't you lower on Kristian Campbell? Like, yes, I was wrong.
It's like, I forgot I was a moron. Yeah, you're right. I can't have an opinion on anybody else.
I'm a moron in perpetuity now.
Put the fries in the bag is another really good one.
Another good one. Yeah, that one.
I gotta dump out all of these on you. But Campbell, like, when are guys gonna stop throwing him fastballs? He's killing fastballs.
Destroying.
He's killing them right now. And he's seeing 50% fastball right now.
Yep.
So just wait, spit on whatever you want to. And he's walking 15% of the time in his first 30 games. So, like, okay, he's not chasing the pitches that he's not great at. And the thing is, like, you look at what he's doing against breaking pitches. He's hitting 260 with a 460 slug against him, too. So he's hitting breaking balls well. He's obliterating fastballs. He's hitting 340 against him with a 570 slug. Like, this guy can do no wrong in the big leagues right now.
And that's the biggest thing that stood out to me, and why I've just quickly realized, okay, definitely undersold what his capabilities are offensively, because what we talked about preseason was he's going to crush fastballs that are over the middle of the plate and away from him. He's going to crush hangers, and with a patient approach, crushing pitches that are hittable, you can carve out a really nice career. You could push towards a 780, 800 OPS.
Yeah.
The difference is he is also not expanding at all against even good spin. And that was where my concern was, because I'd see him against hard sinkers running in, and he'd get just blown up inside sometimes. And then that would set up a breaking ball where then he'd wave at it. And that's the other thing with Campbell is, like, he'll take some horrid swings still. Like, he will throw his bat and look terrible.
That's okay. That's why you get 3 of them in a given at bat.
That's the thing, man. And that's the other thing that I think I underestimated with him is he turns the page. Like, that swing, he'll go pick up his bat. He'll walk back in. He already forgot about it. The guy can throw the same pitch, and he'll put a better swing on it next time.
He calls his teammates his friends. He's not going to think about, like, the last miss.
Yeah.
He didn't know the Red Sox flew on a team plane. He thought like they were just boarding a Southwest flight.
Yeah. There's so many aspects to the personality that it kind of was like, okay, this all makes sense now.
Yeah.
He's just built to be the exception. And that part's really fun. But yeah, literally watching a guy throw his bat on a pitch, like on his front foot, look terrible. Go pick the bat up, same pitch, then he shoots it the other way on it, like 108. It's like, there's ability to adjust. There's ability to just forget. And you're even seeing it game to game here. As a young player, 0 for 4 strikeouts. Next day, 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts. And then he goes 2 for 5 with a double, 2 for 2 with 3 walks, 2 for 4 with a homer and a walk. Like every time you think, oh, here comes the rookie moment, the rookie stretch here. Nope. Walks right back in. The ability to turn the page is so impressive for a 5th round pick that came out of nowhere last year. And that's a big reason why I think the Red Sox gave him this pre-arb extension. So like, I think there's going to be stretches where he gets a little out of whack and he's going to have some high strikeout rates for weeks at a time. Yeah, probably. But I've seen enough now to where I know he can get himself back to where he needs to be.
Yeah.
Number 1, who do you think it is?
Sasaki?
Yeah. Roman Anthony. Yeah, I wonder if we did a poll out. That was the other one that we got a lot. So you win some, you lose some. We got a lot of people that are like, if you're going to rank Sasaki as a prospect, he has to be number 1.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Have you seen this Roman Anthony kid?
And his 3% fastball whiff rate is a little alarming, no?
And Sasaki's great. It was not an indictment on Sasaki as much as it is Roman Anthony could be a superstar. And we're seeing that. Now, what part of it was the fact that Sasaki has also been hurt a bunch. It's like, I'm going to take the 6'3", 200-pound, 20-year-old who is pillaging baseballs with 70 raw power that he's getting into more and more in games. And it's all fields, by the way. And he is destroying balls the other way. He's going to play pepper with the monster, I think, as well as any left-handed hitter has, besides Devers. Like, it is amazing to watch how easily he can go backside. Do you know what his hard hit rate is through 27 games?
I mean, it's close to 50. Has to be close to 50.
No, it's not. It's 61%. That's nuts.
He's
He hits
too
the ball
good
so
for
hard.
Worcester. I'm sorry, but like you have to get him out of Polar Park at this point.
I mean, you got people advocating for him to play first. No, don't do that.
Hilarious.
Yeah, ridiculous. And it sucks with Casas. That was even before Casas went down.
Yeah.
It's only going to get louder now. This guy can actually plug in center. So, no, don't do that. He could play a good corner. I know there was like some shaky reads early in the year. I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think he was dealing with some things too because then he DH for a week straight. But he's a good defender in the outfield. He's fine.
Yeah.
He is just a walking quality at bat too, because he doesn't chase. He crushes fastballs. He recognizes spin so well. And I mean, we're talking about a 90th percentile exit velocity of 108 miles per hour here. The thing that I love about him, and we've seen since he's gotten to AAA, he's hit his homers now this year. He's got 5. But what he did in AAA last year, he wasn't even like hitting that many homers, but he was walking and punishing doubles. And it was like, I can be extremely productive without launching a ton of homers. And that's why I think he's going to just consistently be a productive big league hitter, because sometimes the homers don't. Look at Aaron Judge right now. Like, he's hitting homers. Don't get me wrong, but like, there were stretches where he had like a homer drought, quote unquote, but he's just hitting singles and doubles and hitting balls hard, and it worked for him, where he's still just maintaining ridiculous production. And I think I'm not comparing him to Judge, but it's like certain hitters, especially the top end power guys, like when they're not hitting homers, sometimes it's hard to get into that slug. And I think Anthony's got the ability to do it. He had 34 AAA games last year. He only hit 3 home runs, but he had 11 doubles and a triple, and he was slugging .504. And I think you're seeing it this year where he is hitting the homers, but you're also just seeing the ability to spray the ball over the yard, walk a ton. I think since he's got to AAA, he's walking nearly 20% of the time. And he can put swings on balls, whether it's a ball at the top of the zone that he tomahawks out on a line, or at the bottom of the zone that he golfs out the other way. Like, he's got that ability to almost make any pitch a mistake for pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's near perfect. When you look at minor league hitters, like I've talked about this a little bit, like Rushing, I think going into the year, I called him the best hitter in minor league baseball, because Rushing is a top 10 prospect. Dalton Rushing of the Dodgers, top 10 prospect. There was nothing left for him to accomplish in AAA. Like, this was a big league player masquerading as a AAA player.
Yeah.
Roman quickly, a month into the season, has taken that crown from Dalton Rushing. He is the best non-major leaguer on the planet right now. And that's accounting for Munetaka Murakami. That's accounting for all these guys.
I
Roman,
agree with that.
He's the best non-big leaguer on earth right now.
He has 20 batted balls north of 105 miles per hour in 27 games.
Yeah.
He's almost popping a 105 every game.
That's crazy.
That's a guy that's yawning in AAA right now.
Yeah.
Like, It's so much fun to watch. So very fascinated to see how the Red Sox fit him into the equation. Great problem to have. Wilyer Abreu ain't going anywhere right now. We're just talking about him as a pre-arb extension candidate on the Just Baseball show. Rafael has shown some signs of life, but it seems like that might be the area where they can, maybe find some more reps. But he got the pre-arb extension, so it's going to be fascinating. But I think it's very clear that Roman Anthony's just kind of chilling in AAA right now, and I think he'll be ready to make an impact sooner rather than later. And the craziest part, the last thing I'll say about him is I still don't even think we've seen the best of him. Where the ground ball rate's still a little high, and he'll get away with that. That's fine. You can look at some of the top hitters in baseball to have, if the EVs are plus, you can get away with a high 40s ground ball rate. Even some guys, and Soto's had north of 50. Right. But if he starts elevating a little bit more, he's got the raw power to hit 35 plus. So you just wonder how much more could potentially even be in there too. Yep. That'll do it for this episode. Red Sox top prospects. Been wanting to do that for a little bit. I think next time around we may do Padres, so stay tuned, but maybe Blue Jays as well. We're figuring out which one's next. I've been working on both of those, but I know this has been a farm system that people were excited for a while. Of course, as always, the link is in the episode description if you want to read all the write-ups, and we will have a pretty fun week going into next week as well. We're going to do a check-in, of course, on the performers as well early next week. Any final thoughts, Jack?
I don't think so. I'm with you. There's no denying that this is one of the best farm systems in Major League Baseball. Is it number one? I don't think so, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's damn good. And I think it'll be fun. We're almost done with all the write-ups to potentially get the farm system rankings, but that will be a fun conversation as well. So always thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll talk prospects with you next week.